Okay, we are recording.
Okay,
Yep.
so
So,
shall we start by introducing ourselves? I am Deborah Holmes.
hi, I am Yvette Sanchez.
I am Bhavani Chadaram.
And so we were going to go through some of the food groups that we studied or the cultures that we studied. And the first one that I had studied was tailgating. And tailgating has been defined as basically a picnic that's served from a tailgate. The foods that are served are really the most popular kind of quintessential American foods: hamburgers, hot dogs, and potato chips and beer. It really varies a lot. It can get very elaborate, but these are the most common foods that are served. And this is a group activity where all of the food is prepped on site. And I know we're not into our definitions yet, but when you talk about ethnocentrism, each of these groups really holds their own team to the highest level and better than any of the others. And in fact, other tailgaters, they even hold to a higher standard than others. It was a really, really interesting study for me. And the only thing I didn't add is that it's most often associated with football, but it can be many sports games. So the next culture that I had studied was the Tlingit potlatch, which is essentially, I had first thought that that might be like a potluck, but it's a huge celebration where the host buys and presents everything for any kind of event that may be happening in their lives, like even a death in the family. And it's a quite expensive event, and where they're basically, it's part of their culture to present this. And so some of the foods that they serve a lot come from the sea, because this entire tribe, Native American here tribe, would lived near the sea. So salmon is one thing that they really like to serve in many different ways. And almost as much a part of their culture was the fishing for the food, as opposed even just eating it. There was a huge level of respect given to the fish while they were fishing for it, while they were preparing it, and while they spent significant amount, if not all of their resources in preparing this feast for their friends and family. And the third and final was my own subculture. Although I'm from Northern California, my family is from the Midwest. So they do a lot of Southern cooking. And I studied my mother and sister as they were preparing dinner rolls, which was an all day process that started at 5 a.m. And I discovered that really the reason why they did this was really more important than the what, which was, it was a very detailed, precise way of cooking. But the reason why, it was really about nurturing and caring for the family members and one another. So those were the three food groups that I had studied, or three food cultures.
Great. And I actually see commonalities already, even within my own culture, Deborah, where the one I did on my own research was pasteles, which is a very traditional Puerto Rican dish to be made we started during the holidays. And it's really all about nurturing, bringing the families together. The process is long and interesting. So I'm sure we'll talk a little more about that. But I kind of obviously did the same thing. I have my two groups that I studied, which was Hawaiian food and Japanese rice. And then I had my own culture, which I did pasteles. I kind of did similar approach to you. I have my background, a little bit of history, and then I created my menu, and I'll talk a little bit about my menu. So for the first one is the Hawaiian poi. Poi is one of the most important foods in the Hawaiian culture because of its spiritual meaning. Did I lose you guys?
No, we're
No,
here.
I'm here.
Okay, sorry. This starchy food is called poi. Poi used to be served in schools every day, but there was a huge taro shortage, so they stopped serving it in schools. And now it's actually best known to grow this in your own backyard. Hawaiians are very meticulous about poi. when they are doing the process, it's crushed by stone. It's almost like a mashed potato. We actually have something very similar in our own culture.
Uh-huh.
Legend portrays that the that the taro stem is the stillborn child of Wakia, Father in heaven. Child was born lifeless and in the shape of a bulb. So parents grieved it and buried it in their own backyard, and that's where it came. So that's where the spiritual significance comes from.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's very, very interesting. A few days later, a taro plant sprouted around the grave. Taro is so important to the Hawaiian tradition that the word for family is called after the shoots that sprouted on top of the taro plant. In today's Hawaiian tradition diet, taro is almost at extinct from being done. So they're actually bringing it to the most prestigious schools and teaching students how to do this. Poi is the staple food for Hawaiians. It's they eat it with breakfast, lunch, dinner. They make all kinds of different foods with it. Taro is the best place. A taro patch is the best place to build a house because the grounds are flat.
Okay.
Um, it's also important to learn how to plant taro because it brings families together
Mhm.
and it helps financially as well. So it helps with sales. For my foods, I chose for a starter, I chose taro chips, which are deep fried. For an entree, I chose the poi, which is the traditional poi, which is the one you ground with the stone. And it almost is like a mashed potato kind of looking entree, and they eat it with everything.
Mhm.
Third, I chose to go with a Hawaiian taro pudding, so they're able to use that same vegetable for different types of foods.
Oh,
Okay.
For the next one I have is Japanese rice. So for Japanese, rice is culture. It is their everything. They eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, snacks. Um, it is culturally their staple. Nothing in the American diet compares to Japanese rice. Rice is culture for them. Rice cookers are so extremely important for Japanese, and rice itself that you will not ever go to a home and not find one. Um, right, rice in Japanese culture is also used for everything, as I mentioned, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Rice is one of the most important things in Japanese society. It's considered to be its culture. Japanese rice was so important historically that they used it as a currency in feudal Japan to exchange it for other goods.
wow.
Okay.
During World War II, civilians had to eat other grains so that the rice could be used for the soldiers. Rice is also eaten as a snack called rice balls, a tradition that goes back centuries. Rice, again, is fundamental to Japanese life as food itself. I mean, no rice, no food.
Yeah.
Japanese are horrified when Americans put soy sauce on their white rice. So for my food menu, I chose to go with a starter California rolls. I think we are all very familiar with that. And that consists of crab meat, cucumbers, avocado rolls, and seaweed rice.
Oh, yeah.
For an entree, I did a hibachi rice. I think I personally love hibachi rice. It's rice cooked with chicken, green onions, and eggs. Delicious if you've never had it.
No,
And
I
then for
didn't.
dessert, I chose to go with daifuku, and I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, but it's rice cakes filled with fresh strawberries. Looks amazing. That I've never had.
Yeah.
And then for my own studies, for my own culture, I decided to go with pasteles. Pasteles is it's almost like a tamale, but it's a
Uh-huh.
Puerto Rican version of a tamale. Um, and I did this with my mother-in-law and my sister-in-laws, who actually start making this process right after the holidays. So just recently, we actually started making pasteles. Pasteles is a very long, long process. It usually brings families together, especially in the Puerto Rican culture. It takes anywhere from 1 to 2 days to make. We make 200 to 300 of them at a time. Um, it is our staple food, and it means culturally for us that the holidays are beginning. When once we see families making, usually it's done by an elder. It means that Christmas is around the corner and that we should start planning. And we usually freeze them. They either give them out to family members, we sell them, but it's definitely one of our staple foods during the holidays.
Okay.
And that's it for me.
Wait. Okay, wait. Thank you. So I can hear an echo sound. Can you? Can you hear me? Well,
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
okay. Yeah. So as a part of this, guess who's coming for dinner? This group one, I was dealing with Hindu wedding food and
Mm.
Pennsylvanian Dutch cuisine. So, Hindu wedding food, I know why they mentioned that so specially because I am from the same Hindu culture and wedding is a big, big thing for us. It's all about food. They really, after you go for a wedding and come, long time back when we were kids, our moms used to take small pouches of, there were no Ziploc bags back home. So they used to take a cloth like thing to bring back the sweets and all the special dishes because they serve so many that you can't eat all of them. And your heart doesn't go out to throw those. So she used to carry a hanky like thing, a cloth like thing, napkin, small napkin, and put all the sweets in and bring back home for us because we go to schools and we don't go for those lunches or dinners. So this Hindu, they have this Hinduism is so all over spread over India that we can consider both north and south of India. In south of India, the Hindu weddings usually have loads of rice. When you're talking about Japanese event, it is the same with us. Rice
Yeah.
is everything.
Mhm.
They eat in the morning, afternoon, and night. After I came to United States, I was wondering, is this how much rice I was eating? Because here people are not eating, and I skipped now. I don't eat rice in the morning or afternoon, and it's only in the night. So when my mom comes here, she says, okay, where's rice in the morning? So that's how much we used to eat rice back home. So I think it's all of the Asian countries, Yvette, yours and mine, because Japan is also an Asian country, and we have more paddy fields, and that is the main source of income for farmers, and that's what we eat a lot.
Mm.
And the Hindu wedding food will be having they start off with a starter like just like pakoras made of besan and onions, and they do kat mirchi, which I think you people will be scared. It's green chilies, the long green chilies, only chilies. They dip in besan flour
Oh.
and deep fry it, and they garnish it with onions, and we all love it.
Oh, yeah.
So those are the starters we have in the Hindu wedding, and then they treat us with some veg biryani or chicken biryani. It depends. Some of the Hindus are only vegetarians, like I don't eat meat at all, and few will be eating meat. So it depends upon the bride and the bridegroom's family whether they eat meat or not. So if they eat meat, chicken biryani is a must. If they don't eat meat, it's veg biryani. So just substitution of vegetables and chicken. That is the main entree. And then they serve so many side dishes like papads, and sambar, rice. There'll be so many that you have to stop those guys who serve you. It's not a potluck stuff that you go and get what you want. People will be serving you, and you have to say stop, 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 or otherwise they keep on serving you. And
Coming to one of your
after that,
weddings.
yeah, it is so much. There'll be people only for serving actually. And once that second main entry is done, the desserts come through. There'll be ladus, jangris. These all are humongous sweets which has so much of sugar. For 1 cup of flour, we take 2 cups of sugar, even when I make at home. So, and that will be the final one. And by the time the desserts come through, no one will have space in their tummy to eat. And that is the reason people take that napkins and bring them back home because they can't throw it. And as we all know how much effort it takes to make those sweets, So that's about Hindu wedding food. It's so posh, and even though you're rich or poor, people will try to overdo their stuff, I feel. That's my personal opinion. And next comes the Pennsylvanian Dutch cuisine. So,
Okay.
because I read Hindu wedding food, I was eager to look at what Dutch cuisine in wedding looks like. But I did a mistake here. I thought Pennsylvanian Dutch are the same people as the Dutch people who are in Netherlands now. But it seems it's not right, because
Mm.
those cuisines in Dutch are different and Pennsylvanian Dutch cuisine is different. Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania Dutch people are Amish people, originated from
Oh.
Germany and Dutch as well. So their cuisines, even though they are similar, but it's not entirely the same. I did the same mistake in the starting days. Later on, I realized it. So when we
Mm-hmm.
talk about Pennsylvania Dutch cuisine, it means most of it is Amish counties and the food that they eat. And Amish counties, as we know, they are very conservative, and they don't mix up with other people, and they believe only the resources that grow from earth and cultivated by them. So when I
Mm-hmm.
looked at their wedding thing, it was so simple compared to Hindu weddings.
Yeah.
Here, they just call all the people to the bride's house, and it's even though the wedding starts from morning 4 o'clock, the lunch is served, and it is just a roasted chicken with potatoes and some gravies and the mashed potato stuff, and they even have the desserts, but none of them are so heavily that they have to do it from days together or so. Even the bride and bridegroom have to help the parents in doing the stuff, and
Yeah.
after dinner on that day they have to help, they sleep in the bride's house so that they can wake up and clean up the house along with
Yeah,
the
like I,
family. Yeah, it's so strict. And they go to each family after the wedding. I felt the rituals are more dense, rather that they don't concentrate much on the food, I feel. Rather to these enculturations, and as the generations are passing on, people are trying to make posh recipes out of that, but they don't have a heavy uh, dishes like they take days or much effort. It is always the roast, a mixture of bread and filling with the chicken, or mashed potatoes, coleslaw,
Right.
applesauce, and some leafy celery stalks. These are the ones that they do, and they really stick to their core grown stuff. That is about the Dutch cuisine. And now about my subculture. I didn't take any festival stuff, but I took one theme of, we do have many festivals every month. Throughout the year, we have many festivals. It's not like only two or three the whole year. For example, this month, we have almost six festivals that I have to wake up in the morning and cook.
oh my goodness.
So yes, and we have to clean the whole house every day, every festival. So it's a big pain for me, but we are so much used to that I don't feel like I'm praying if I don't do that whole stuff.
Yeah.
So I spoke to one of my aunts, and we have one rice item again, which we offer to God every time we do. As soon as our moms are cooking that, we know that it's a festival day. Even though if it's a Sunday or a Saturday, it's an yellow rice, and that rice is cooked both. In India there are poor people as well who go to, the ladies also go to farm fields to work, so even they also have to offer the food. So it's a rice item mixed with some lemon and some yellow turmeric powder. I'm not sure if you know, it's a yellow powder. They mix that and do some oil and some dal and all, and they offer that to God. So that is the important one that we have to cook on a festival day. That is from my subculture. So this is all what I have.
Wonderful.
Yes. Wow. I'm hungry.
Yes.
I know. It's lot of cooking all over, right?
Yeah.
Yes. But I think, if we talk about commonalities, I think we could see a lot of rice within the cultures, huh?
Yes.
I definitely see it in my Japanese. We see it in your own
Hindu
culture,
weddings.
Hindu.
Yes.
Yeah, and I see in the Dutch or the Amish cuisine is really similar to Southern cooking and almost to the Southern culture where everything is fresh and farm grown as well.
Yes,
Wow.
and that is the reason actually they take the Amish brand name as for freshness, you see. For example,
Yeah,
Quakers
exactly.
and
Yeah.
all, they name it
Yeah.
after the Amish people because they have that strict rules of eating this and that, even
And
though
high
they
quality
enjoy their
standard.
food.
Yeah.
And what the other thing I noticed is the amount of food. So, Debbie, you mentioned that Hindu weddings, it's all about food, all about food. And
Yes,
if you think about tailgating, right, it's really about
yes,
the food too. It's like
I know.
Yeah.
I-
it's a
That
lot of
is true.
food.
And because in the tailgating, for sure, we come over and people start eating,
Oh,
stop, again eat, stop, again eat. So it's a continuous process of eating even over there. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, and even in the Tlingit potlatch, it was way more, like you said about the Hindu weddings,
yeah,
far more than they could ever eat is
that's
what they
right.
had prepared. Yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, what's definitely very, very different, I would say, it's the Hawaiian pie. There is
Mm.
nothing that we discuss that even comes comparable to this type of vegetable that is culture and the spiritual significance for the Hawaiian culture.
Right. Although I'll tell you, I
Definitely,
tried that event. I have eaten poi before, and it was really terrible.
it was, you
Really?
did? Well, look at that. That's probably why it's not so famous and why it's becoming a little extinct in modern diets because, the younger generations are just not eating it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it depends also. Even my younger generations now, because they are born here, they don't like what I like. The sweets
Yeah,
that I'm talking about right now, they
yeah,
don't like. I put so much effort in making those sweets, and at the end, it's me eating them because I think it's our culture and the whole way that we are eating throughout our life. We like it, but the kids won't like it because they are in a different culture. So I feel that
Yeah.
their culture is totally changing a bit by bit, not the whole. They know that they have to eat rice for dinner, but they choose options over there. So it's not my culture, direct culture, that is I'm passing on to them. It's
Right.
changing
The
now.
culture isn't as pure as it was. It's maybe mixed in with
Yes,
American culture or
yes.
other culture.
well,
It's
and I think
changing according to the place we live because it
Uh-huh.
depends upon the society or the people along with whom my kids are hanging out.
yep, and I think it has a little bit to do with subculture, right? Because you have different small cultures living here in the United States, so
That's true.
although you have your
And when
roots,
Right.
Yes, and the same
okay,
thing,
Right.
Yvette, as you're saying, when we have these subcultures, but when we say we are from India or we are from Japan, we try to stick together because we know that we belong to the same country. And
yep,
Mm.
then what's happening is one subculture is the other subculture are picking few dishes of the other subculture if the
yep,
kids like it or we like it, and we are trying to emboss them in our subculture,
that's
and
right,
it's slowly becoming an ingredient of my festival activities as well.
yep.
So yeah, that subculture, that's going on merging into another new culture, which is, I think so, that is what cultural relativity means. Even though we have a special context, but still we get along together and we try to absorb the side culture.
I
Yeah.
completely agree with that. I think, we all put our own um, feelings or understanding of our cultures aside so that we can understand about the Hawaiian, the Japanese, and the meaning of it. So, totally, completely agree with cultural relativity there.
Yes.
Right.
And even
So, I
as the
think we,
rituals, as Deborah was mentioning for tailgating, if you say what the ritual is, it is just bringing food and eating, right?
yep,
And same
Right.
way for Hawaiian, when you say that they have to have the poi, that is their ritual.
yep,
And for me, if eating more and the most delicious food at a Hindu wedding, or cooking of that special rice on a particular, on any festival,
Yeah.
is a ritual for me.
Yeah.
So as we are talking through, we can easily find out what each culture's rituals are also.
Oh yeah, and for when I look at rituals, for my stuff, I look in Japanese rice. It's served with every dinner, and it's forbidden when what to say bad words when you're eating
Right.
rice at the dinner table. Like it's a ritual. You are forbidden from saying bad words while you're eating rice at the dinner table for Japanese.
That's so true. Actually, when you're talking about that, it is in our culture that we have to sit down on squatted legs and eat our rice. But as the cultures are changing on, now we sit on dining tables and eat.
Yeah.
My younger generation, they don't even know how to eat with a hand. I
Oh,
eat with my hands, with my using my all my fingers, but these guys, my kids, don't know how to eat with that. So when we go back home, I find this difference between the generations a lot. They are
yep.
from a same culture. I'm trying to teach them everything, but they're absorbing so much of their peers and all that they don't even know how to eat with their hands like me.
Yeah. In the rituals, also with the potlatches, the hosts actually abstained from had like physical deprivations, even bathing, limiting their food and drink. It was a real ritual to abstain just before this huge feast.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's great. That's incredible.
Yeah. And we, and when we talk about symbol or symbolism, uh, we say, okay, go and pray, means every culture have their own way of praying. For example, you see,
right.
or eating as well, we eat only after we give it offer to God. That is our symbolism of respecting our gods. So even my kids now, they don't eat as soon as I cook. When I show towards a god, he knows that he has to offer food to God and then eat. So
Wonderful.
even from a symbolism perspective as well, when we say, okay, we have to represent some things by symbol, we can say that it's a symbolic way of praising the gods by offering the food before we eat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Very good example. Yeah, for us, when I did my own culture, it's the pasteles. It's a symbol. You make those pasteles, and people come into your house, and it's a symbol that the holiday seasons are around the corner, and you better get your shopping going and get ready to drink and eat a lot.
Yeah,
That's true.
exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and everyone knows, and in my southern cooking when I did our own, we had dinner rolls, and they take so long to prepare that they know that when you come with those dinner rolls that took all day to make, that someone thinks very highly of you and or this event, if it's your birthday or the people that are attending. So that's really a symbol that this is a special day.
It's almost like an honor, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I think we have two more that we still have to cover. Is enculturation.
Oh wait, I talked a little bit
I
about
think we
that
talked
in
about enculturation, right? Even that is how my culture kids, the kids are changing slowly, even though I have one type of
Yes.
culture. They're
Okay.
adopting the other culture and they are doing the enculturation. The next generations are, that's how even ours also should be changing, right? Earlier our ancestors were doing something else, then later on they added species to the food to make it more interesting. In the Dutch
Yeah.
cuisine, I read that the latest cooks in Dutch, because they have so mild stuff like the only grown vegetables and all.
Hmm.
Now the latest culture, or whoever the cooks are, they are trying to embed species and try to mix something else to give more flavor, to taste it better. So the traditional way of cooking will be changing through the cultures as
Yeah.
we try to absorb the other culture food and the species. For example, Asians have more species compared to anyone. So when we are using that species, means we are doing the enculturation there, right? We are trying to absorb some food from the other culture and incorporating into our food to make it more tasty.
Yep. Okay.
And then with the ethnocentrism, we discussed that a little in the entrance for tailgaters, that they are quite ethnocentric in that everyone believes that their team and their sport is far superior to the other
Oh,
teams.
That's so true. I
Far
agree to
superior.
that. And I really feel, that how much they believe in them, even though they lose. For example, here they have few matches, and every time they lose,
Exactly.
but still they support them with the same thing, and they have the same faith
Oh,
in that team.
yeah.
that's right.
And I think all cultures have a little bit of that, whether it be by our religion, our food, our music, our language. I think we all have influences in us. So
Yeah, and even for ethnocentrism, for example, as I told you, whenever we have a festival, I have to clean my whole house, and I have to do this pulihora, which is the yellow
yes,
rice. And that is something I'm so much used to. If I don't do that, I know that the kids won't eat, my husband won't eat, but still my hand doesn't stop from making that, because that's what I'm seeing right from my grandmom, my other grandmom, my aunts, the whole families, we do that. And even I do that. I put in the fridge and eat the next day, but still I can't stop doing that. So it's how, that we get used to that and we continue the same thing. That's what is that ethnocentrism, evaluation of other cultures according to preconceptions originating in the standards and customs of one's culture. Even though
yep,
I came here, still I do that. Actually, we have to wash everything with water back home. But here I can't wash my carpet floors with water. So I
yep.
just change into my own thing and vacuum it and think, okay, I'm done. This is easier than back home where we have to hold the broom and wash the whole house. And our backs will be half gone by the time I'm done with that. So, in fact, I'm happy I came here and I don't have a floor that I have to swipe and wipe before I
Wow,
pray to God. Yeah. So,
pretty cool. Okay, well, I think we have kind of talked through our menus, all
yes.
three of them, so all nine of them. We've talked about what they have in common and what they don't have, what's different about them. And I think we also talked about, from an anthropological perspective, the words and the meanings and how we related that to that. So are you guys comfortable that we can wrap this recording?
Yes, I'm
Yes.
pretty okay for that. Yes, and we can wrap it and we can share our menus and make the whole document.
Yep.
That sounds wonderful.
Okay. Thank you,
Okay.
Deborah.
So
Thank
maybe
you,
we
Yvette.
can, ladies, maybe we can connect quickly to just discuss the last piece of
Yes.
the project. So I'll schedule a meeting for tomorrow. Is tomorrow 3 o'clock work for you, Deborah?
Tomorrow is Wednesday, 3 o'clock. That would be noon. Yes, that should be fine.
Okay, so let me go ahead and schedule a meeting for noon just so that we can talk and figure out who's going to do what portion of the last project, and
Okay.
then we can wrap this up.
All right,
For
great.
sure.
Okay, thank you, ladies.
Thank you
Have a
so
good
much.
night.
Thank you so
All right.
much.
Bye.
Good night. Bye bye.